basement of La Penta. This is WICR.
Hello, Iona College. Welcome back to the Sports Vault. Jersey Joe and Big Shot Rob back again. We're going to finish up our NBA quickly because I know people want us to move into college football, so we will get right into that. But we just left off. Number 1, I have the Clippers. Number 2, I have the Spurs. Big Shot Rob has those reversed. But 3, I have the Oklahoma City Thunder. And this season is going to be huge for the future of Scott Brooks. I mean, I think we've seen time is kind of running out. Patience is kind of running out for Scott Brooks. The time is now. He's really got to kind of get them momentum, get the ball rolling. And they're at a little bit of a disadvantage because of Kevin Durant's injury for the first month of the season. He's going to be fine when he comes back. It'll take him a couple weeks to get back into rhythm, but he's not going to be gone too long. They should be fine. But the thing is, I just don't love the depth of this team, especially on the bench. I mean, you look at the starting lineup, Russell Westbrook. Without Durant, you have Reggie Jackson, Andre Robertson, Serge Ibaka, and Kendrick Perkins. But you look at the guys they're bringing in to be big production off the bench. Steve Adams, Nick Collison, Jeremy Lamb. That's not going to cut it. I mean, in the Western Conference, where you have like a legit 8 to 10 teams who are playoff contenders, this is not enough depth. I don't like this depth at all. I mean, it just shows you how good Kevin Durant is, but you got to start bringing in more talent to put around him because there's just not a lot of talent around Kevin Durant.
Oh, yeah, most definitely, Joe. I also have them at 3. And when you look at this team, Joe, they bring in Anthony Morrow. Did you really think that Anthony Morrow was going to be like the key sharpshooter for your team? No, he's not. I'd rather have Kevin Martin on this team right now than Anthony Morrow.
I agree.
Now, Morrow's out. He's going to be out for the first couple weeks with his injury. And you're going to go with Jeremy Lamb? Jeremy Lamb's not going to dominate for you. So I'm very worried for this Thunder team for the first couple weeks of the season. I really think they're going to have a hard time, and Russell Westbrook's really going to go nut in games.
Oh, he's going to be happy. No one's more happy about Kevin Durant being hurt than Russell Westbrook because he's going to take like 40 shots a game. But let's go on to the 4th seed. I have the Golden State Warriors. Now, the Golden State Warriors are kind of in a weird position. Bringing in Steve Kerr, I think Steve Kerr is a good fit. If he can properly institute the triangle, I think it'll be a phenomenal set because this team is very young, very fast, and they move the ball really well. So if he can really institute it, this team will run it perfectly. But the thing that it will always be for the Golden State Warriors is defense. We know what they can do offensively. They can do everything offensively. Shoot the ball. They can play around the basket. They have enough pieces to do it. They have depth everywhere. But it's going to come down to defense. They have to buy in on defense. This is a team that gives up way too many points. In the last couple of seasons, they just don't have a defensive identity. Steve Kerr, if I'm Steve Kerr, that's the number one thing that I'm highlighting on everybody's play charts, on the big billboards. It's defense for the Warriors. They will go only as far as defense can take them. And at the end of the day, I'm also thinking, is Klay Thompson's contract extension going to become a distraction? We've seen it a lot this offseason. I don't think so. I think Klay is one of those guys who can kind of separate that from his play on the court. And it's going to come down to also Andre Iguodala. He has to be better. Did not make the impact I thought he would last year. He only, 9.3 points per game, 4.2 assists per game, 4.7 rebounds per game. This is a guy they gave a lot of money to be a difference maker. He was not that difference maker this year. Last year, he has to step it up and make a bigger impact this year.
Joe, I have to disagree with you on this one. I went with the Trailblazers at number 4.
Okay.
And the key for this is I like the way that Damian Lillard and LaMarcus Aldridge controlled at the end of the season, the way they controlled this team. You look at the series versus the Rockets, LaMarcus Aldridge owned the whole Houston Rockets team. Like, nobody could stop him in any of those playoff games. Damian Lillard's only 24 years old. The guy's going to continue improving. He's a great shooter, and I really feel that this team will continue to be on the rise, especially with Batum. You look at Robin Lopez, who I really did not expect the year he had last year to happen. The guy really hadn't impressed me at the Phoenix Suns. And I think this team is revamped, and they're going to be far. They're going to go far this year.
Well, I'll go to the Portland Trailblazers, and I have them as the 5th spot. And I agree. I'm a big fan of the Portland Trailblazers. Terry Stotts definitely has this team on the rise. But you look at this team, I think their big 3 is very good. Damian Lillard's rise has been unbelievable. I mean, a guy entering his 3rd season last year, 20.7 points per game, 5.6 assists per game, 3.5 rebounds per game. This is a guy who just gets it. He gets that he's a young guy. I love watching Damian Lillard play. And LaMarcus Aldridge is playing for a contract extension. He's going to get his extension. I think he'll stay with Portland. But he's just been an unbelievable guy. Plays both ends of the floor. Really just a phenomenal player. And Nicholas Batum is a good guy as well. So I think the core of this team is young. And they're going to turn into a really perennial powerhouse in the West. Watching this team grow, it's a lot of fun to watch.
Oh, it most definitely is, Joe. For my number 5 team, I'm going with the Warriors. First year head coach, Steve Kerr, his main job is win a playoff series this year. That's his biggest job this year. I love their offense, but one thing that continues to worry me, and it still has over the last couple years, is the health of David Lee and Andrew Bogut. Those guys must stay healthy if this team is to succeed, and you really need more production out of Andre Iguodala, who just came off a big contract signing.
There you go. Now, I'll go quickly. We'll go with the last 3 so we can move into college football. 6, you have the Rockets. I'm not in love with this team. I see them as a mercenary group. There's been a lot of questions about James Harden and Dwight Howard's leadership. But the big thing for this team, I mean, it's a good roster. I mean, you have Dwight Howard, James Harden, Trevor Ariza, Terrence Jones, power forward. You watch out for his name. He's going to be a very big key to this team this year. But I just think Dwight, as a big 2, it's not a big 3, it's a big 2. Dwight Howard isn't enough as a big 2. Doesn't impact the game enough away from the basket. For me, that's really big there. And I just think at the end of the day, I think when you think of the leadership for this team, Dwight Howard and James Harden, it's questionable there. And just Dwight Howard doesn't impact the game enough from the basket. That's my big takeaway for the Rockets.
Yeah, I went with the Rockets also, Joe. My reason for having them drop so much is you let go of Chandler Parsons, one of the key to your big 3 last year. Dwight Howard hasn't impressed me since his days with the Orlando Magic, where he just dominated teams. And I don't like just James Harden and Dwight Howard. They think that they could win it all by themselves, and I don't see it happening in Houston.
There you go. Now, rolling along to the 7th seed, I have the Dallas Mavericks. Rick Carlisle is a great coach. The only team that gave the Spurs any trouble in the playoffs last year was the Dallas Mavericks. But you look at this team, I like bringing back Tyson Chandler. I think he was a big piece to that team when they won the championship. Bringing him back is going to be good for everybody. But how big of an impact can Chandler Parsons have? I think they're expecting a lot out of this guy. He's a good player, but I mean, I think they're expecting maybe too much from him. And did they undervalue Vince Carter's production? I know sometimes Vince Carter is one of those guys who is in his older stage, but he was a huge part of this team. Offensively, he gave them so much production off the bench. I think they're going to miss not having him anymore. And is Dirk going to still hold up? Last year, he played very well, 21.7 points per game, but he's at age 36, and that's usually when we start to see guys kind of peak and really just decline. So is Dirk going to be able to sustain his greatness? I'm not sure, but it should be. I think they'll still make it to the 7th spot.
Joe, for my number 7 seed, a lot of people are going to call me crazy. I went with the New Orleans Pelicans. Anthony Davis just keeps on amazing me. Last year had his best year, averaging 20.8 points per game, 10 rebounds a game. And you look at what he's surrounded with. If this big 4 that they have with Drew Holiday, Tyreek Evans, and Eric Gordon is able to coexist together, this team could be very dominant. They're still young, and I see them making the playoffs this year.
Anthony Davis, man, he's the most versatile young player in the NBA. Him and LeBron do more than any other player can, just their skill set in general. I think the Pelicans are definitely on the rise. Now, with the 8th spot finally ending it off, I have the Memphis Grizzlies. I really like their starting lineup. Mike Conley, Marc Gasol, and then Zach Randolph, those big guys. Mike Conley's development has been very nice to see. But the big problem is we know this team is built on defense. Defensively, they are outstanding. It's offense that they struggle with at times. They bring in Vince Carter, which I thought was a great signing. He's a guy who's going to come right off the bench and just give them a spark on offense. Very good signing for the Grizzlies. I think they're going to stay at the 8th spot, and that's finishing off the West for me.
For my 8th seed, Joe, I'm going with the Dallas Mavericks. Yes, you put in the addition of Chandler Parsons really improves this team. The one thing I don't like is their point guard situation. You have Devin Harris. You have Raymond Felton, who's coming off one of the worst years of his NBA career. And you have Jameer Nelson. I don't see a really established point guard like last year with Jose Calderon. And Tyson Chandler, yes, you know what? He's a great improvement for their defense, but I haven't seen that much of the presence of Chandler that I would have liked with his Defensive Player of the Year when he won it with the Knicks. I wasn't impressed with him last year. But you have to put in also, you lose your best defender in Sean Marion and Vince Carter. Unbelievable six-man to come off the bench. Really is going to kill them losing him.
There you go. We're definitely agreed on that one. Well, that is going to do it. The NBA season kicks off tomorrow night with the San Antonio Spurs and the Dallas Mavericks. For the important things, the Cleveland Cavaliers, they start their season on Thursday. I know everyone is most excited for that. I know I will be. But that is going to do it. A little highlight of the NBA season, what to look out for. We are moving into college football, so stay with us, and we will be right back with the most current AP Top 10. A lot of big games to get to from this weekend.